We're at the bottom of Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, about 5 lines from the bottom, where it says V'tachas kvoidei. So this is another pasuk that talks about clothing. It's related to that, so that's bepashtus why the Gemara brings it here, and it's also the same Amiraim that spoke about the psukim before that are arguing about these psukim as well. That's what Rashi says. So this is a pasuk. First, let's read the pasuk inside. V'tachas kvoidei. And beneath your honor, Yikud, Yokad, he will burn, Yikud ki Yikudesh, a flame like a flame of fire. What is this pasuk talking about? The bottom of Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. We're talking about the time when Sancherev came with his army and placed a siege on Yerushalayim. And this is the nevuah of Yecheskel, probably. Is it Yecheskel or the nevuah of Yeshaya? Just a second. It's the nevuah of Yeshaya that is saying what's going to happen to the whole army, that Eibush is going to burn them alive. But here there's a three-way machlokes exactly what does v'tachas kvoidei mean. How will the Eibush to burn them? Rabbi Yechanan says v'tachas kvoidei means beneath their honor. V'loi kvoidei mamish. It doesn't literally mean their honor, which would refer to their bodies. Rather, it refers to their garments. Rabbi Yechanan lataimei, and this is Rabbi Yechanan following what he said earlier in this daf, that Rabbi Yechanan kari lamane mechabdusai. Rabbi Yechanan referred to his garments as the ones that give me honor. So basically what it's saying is that the Eibush is going to bring a fire, and beneath their garments, which is their bodies, the Eibush will burn, and their clothing will remain intact. That's the pshat here, according to Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Eliezer says, v'tachas kvoidei means tachas kvoidei mamish. Literally, the word tachas means not beneath, but instead of. The word tachas many times Lashon Kodesh means instead of. Tachas kvoidei means instead of their honor, meaning that the Eibishter will pay them, will punish them. That instead of their honor, they'll be burnt, which means that they're going to be entirely burnt. I mean, the result is the same, that their bodies will be burnt, but he just learns it out in a different way. Tachas means instead of, and kvoidei does refer to their bodies, that their bodies will be burnt into ashes. Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni says, Tachas kvoidei, what does Tachas kvoidei mean? So he teaches, this is how Rashi explains it, Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni teaches the word Tachas to mean beneath, but he teaches the word kvoidei to mean the body, not the garments. So therefore the result of his pshat is different. Kisreifas b'nei Aaron, that the army is going to be burnt the way the children of Aaron HaKohen died. Ma'ala alon, just like over there by Nadav and Avihu, Sreifas neshama v'guf kayam, the neshama was burnt, but their guf remained intact. Afkan, Sreifas neshama v'guf kayam. The Eibishter took away, burnt their souls, and their guf remained intact. So the meaning of Tachas kvoidei, according to Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni, is beneath the neshama, beneath the guf, kvoidei is the guf, beneath the guf is the neshama. And the fire of the Eibishter will reach beneath the guf into the neshama. But their guf will remain intact. So we have three different interpretations how to teach this pasuk, but it's really only two pshatim as far as what happened. Two opinions say that the Eibishter burnt their bodies and their clothing remained intact. And the third opinion is that the Eibishter burnt their neshama, the Eibishter snuffed out their neshama, and their guf remained intact. It doesn't mean, the comparison to Aaron HaKohen's children is interesting. It doesn't mean the nefesh will kiss like by a yid, but it means their life, the nefesh, their life will be snuffed out, and their guf will remain intact. Yeah. Another thing about wearing special clothing. Minayin l'shinui begadim min ha-Torah. From where do we know that to show honor, you change your dress? So where do we see this in a pasuk in the Torah? Shenemar, because it says by the Aved of the Kainim, ufashat es begadav, they remove their regular priestly clothing, v'lavash begadim acherim, and they wear different garments. This is when they take out the ashes, the itzah sadeshin outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says, "Limetcha Torah derech eretz." The Torah here is teaching you the proper conduct. Begadim shabishal ben kedera l'rabbi, the clothing that you wear when you're cooking for your master, al yimzig ben kais l'rabbi. That's not that you don't wear the same garments when you come and you serve the kais, directly to your master. So the same thing over here, the begadim that they wear during the Aveda of taking out the Deshen is not the same begadim that they wear when they do the Aveda, when the Kainim do the Aveda.
What other begadim do they have? Don't they only have the 4 begadim, or they just change the same 4
begadim? No, could be the begadim that they wore for the Tzah Sadeshen was Bechlal not, wasn't the regular Bigdei Kona Bechlal. So the Mashayir says that this is also Merames on Shabbos. Bishul Bem Kedeira is when the person is preparing for Shabbos. He's cooking for Shabbos. The clothing that you wear when you cook for Shabbos should not be the same clothing that you wear when you're holding the kais of Kiddush in your hands, making Kiddush. That's what the Mashal says.
Yesterday, because I had to catch up. I'm learning in Shul, and I'm reading this Gemara about changing clothing on Shabbos. Like a guy standing in front of me in jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers.
On Shabbos.
Take the Shul on Shabbos. It was just summer Shabbos.
So this is right over here. This is the Gemara. There's a sikha from the Rebbe on this Gemara also.
Not Shabbos clothing too early either. If you're still preparing for Shabbos.
Okay. There's a sikha from the Rebbe on this Inyan where the Rebbe explains when you get to the Karbonis why the Haitzah Sadeshen had to be done with different clothing than what's done in the Beis HaMikdash. This mashal of the Gemara here. So the Rebbe just points out in the Pshat of the Gemara that when you're serving your master, there's what you do in his presence. And that's what you do in the kitchen. That's not in his presence. That's one difference. Another difference is there's when you're actually serving your master, and then there's when you're making preparations. When you're making preparations, so you're not yet serving. It's only a hachana, or sometimes even a hachana lehachana. So that doesn't necessitate the same level of garments. But the Rebbe asks a geschmack question. If this is the pshat over here, that you have to this difference between the cook and the person that's serving the master, so you should expect that it should be different kayanim. Not the same kayin. Why isn't there a kayin designated to do that kind of work, and the kayin that's there to do the work on the mizbeach, just like it is with the people that serve the master? There's the cook in the kitchen, and then there's the person that's the waiter, or the person that comes into the room where the king is to serve him, the butler. So why is it b'chlal the same person? Elamai mikan raya, that when it comes to serving the Eibishter, a person should never say that there are certain avedas that's befitting to me and certain avedas that are below my dignity, that I won't do them. When the Eibishter tells us to do something, a kayan has to be there and ready to serve the Eibishter regardless of whether it's a chashuv aveda, whether it's a aveda on a low level. A yid is bottled to the ratzon of the Eibishter to do either one. And the same person, if he has to dress in these clothing, he'll dress in those clothing. If he dress in more chashuv clothing, he'll take on that personality, whatever the Eibishter demands of you. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Amar Rab Chiya bar Abba, Amar Rab Yechanan. Gnayu l'Talmud Chacham. It's a gnai, it's an embarrassment, it's not right for a Talmud Chacham. Sheyetze b'min olim hametulaim l'shuk. That he wears shoes that have patches on it walking out in the marketplace. Fragt the Gemara, B'hat v'ha, Rab Acha bar Chanina, Nafik, Rab Acha bar Chanina did walk with shoes that had patches on it. Amar Rab Acha berei de Rav Nachman. So Rav Acha berei de Rav Nachman explained, B'taloi al gav tloi. If it has one patch, it's fine. But if it has a patch on a patch, it's so torn that it's so noticeable, so that's an embarrassment. The Talmud Chacham shouldn't walk out that way. V'amar Rab Chiya bar Abba, Amar Rab Yechanan, Kol Talmud Chacham shenimtza revav al bigdoi. A Talmud Chacham that walks out and he has a stain on his garment, chayiv misa. He's chayiv misa. Shenemar kol mesanai avu maves. Those that hate me, the Eibishter says, love death, because they'll bring death upon themselves. So the Gemara darshans, al tikra mesanai, don't read it as mesanai, ela masniai, those that cause that others should hate me. As Rashi explains, when you're walking out, when a Talmud Chacham walks out with a stain on his garments, so people say, look at these people that learn Torah, and they can't dress like a mensch. And that brings people to hate people that learn Torah. So you're causing this, so that's why it's chayiv misa.
I wonder, not to be controversial at all, but Rabbanim that get into situations that they, like with all the abuse cases.
Here we're talking physically about a stain.
I know, but look at the
concept of Talmud Chacham being careful of things that he says publicly. Yeah, Ravina says, Revad. The way to read the statement of Rabbi Yechanan is not a Talmud Chacham that has a stain, but a revad. As Rashi says, the meaning of a revad is a stain from zera, from shichva zera, from semen. That's the kind of stain we're talking about. And that's where it's a problem. Revad itmer. V'loi pligi, so the Gemara explains, and there's no machlokes here, ha beglima, if you have a stain on an external garment, so that's a problem, whatever stain it is. and ha belavusha. And when we're talking about the revad, which is specifically a stain of shich chazera, that's from a undergarment or another layer that's below. That's where that's a problem. What's the pshat on this that it says in a nevuah? Kashaholach avdi Yeshayahu. My servant Yeshayahu went how? Orem v'yachaf. He was walking without any clothing and barefoot. So what's this nevuah all about? It can't be understood literally that he was walking without being dressed and barefoot. Oro means that the Eibishter told him begodim beluim, that he should walk with the shreds, with clothing that are worn out clothing. V'yachav and b'min olam amatulam, that he was walking with shoes that were patched up. So that was a special nevuah, a special Indian that he had to walk around this way. According to other Mefarshim, was not physically, it means it was all part of his vision that he saw himself walking around this way. It doesn't mean kipshute. Tanan Hassam, the Gemara brings a Mishnah that's related to this Indian, about the stain on the clothing of a Talmud Chacham. So we learned in a Mishnah as follows. This is regarding the mitzvah of tefillah, when you have to tevel something that's tameh. So there's the concept of chatzitza, b'negei tefillah. Something has a stain on it, and especially if you're makpid on the stain. If it's disturbing to you and you want to remove that stain, so then the chatzitza is an issue. In many cases, if you have a chatzitza and you're not makpid, in most cases, if it's not on roiv of the garment or roiv on the keli, and you're not makpid, the chatzitza does not count. So here it's going to go through different cases of a stain. What is it considered to be a stain that a person is makpid? Revav ala mardeya, when you have a stain on the saddle of a donkey. Chaitzitz. That's something that a person is makpid on, and therefore it's a chatzitza. It's only in the size of an isserai talki, size of an Italian isser. Vala begodim, stains on the garment of a person. Mitzad echad eine chaitzitz. If it's a stain that's only on one side of his garment, he's not makpid, and therefore it's not a chatzitza. Mishnei tzadin, if it's the stain that went through and through, it's on both sides, that's something that a person is makpid on, and it is chaitzitz. Rabbi Yehuda mishom Rabbi Shmuel. In the name of Rabbi Shmuel, he said, Af mitzad echad chaitzitz. A stain on a garment, even if it's just on one side of the garment, a person is particular about that, and therefore it is a chatzitza for the tefillah. So, so he asked the question, according to Rabbi Shmuel, this is as Rashi says, this is a question particularly according to Rabbi Shmuel. Mardas, going back to what it said in the beginning of this Mishnah, the saddle of the donkey, mitzad echad or mishnei tzadin. The stain that we said before that it's a chatzitza, is that if it's a stain from one side or the stain absorbed and went to both sides. Amalei, so he answered him, Zulay shamaiti, I didn't hear clearly what Rabbi Shmuel held in that case, but kayetze bo shamaiti. I heard something similar. The Tnan, because we learned in the Hemshech of that Mishnah there, it says, Rabbi Yosi Yomer shel banoin Talmidei Chachamim, which are called banoin, as the Gemara will soon explain, the garments of Talmidei Chachamim, mitzad echad. A stain from one side is also enough to be a chatzitza. V'shel bor, a garment of a bor, of an ama'aretz, of an ignoramus, mishnei tzaddim. Only a stain from both sides is something that he's particular about, and it will be a chatzitza. So therefore he said, based on this, v'loi tehei mardas chashuva mibigdo shel ama'aretz. A saddle of a donkey should not be more important, that a person is more particular about it than the beged of an ama'aretz. If by the case of an ama'aretz we say that he's only makbid if it comes on both sides, the stain, so for a saddle of a donkey we could assume that it's the same, that the kpeda of a person is only if the stain is on both sides. My banon, so why are Talmidei Chachamim referred to as banon? Rabbi Yechanan, Elu Talmidei Chachamim she'oiskim b'bunyane shel olam kol yemeyan. These are the Talmidei Chachamim that are Isaac, that are occupied in building the world their entire lifetime. How are Talmidei Chachamim building the world? So the Marsha here says, because the Eibishter creates the world through the Torah. The Torah is the blueprint of creation. And the Talmidei Chachamim that learn Torah are the ones that are really holding up the existence of the world. There are so many places that the Rebbe speaks about this. My modern from the Rebbe, the Talmidei Chachamim Marben Shalom Ba'olam, and V'chol Banayach. There's the Maimon from the Rebbe, V'chol Banayach Limudei Hashem. Tamshi Yadalid and other years where the Rebbe talks barichas about this Indian, Al Tikri Bonoyach, Elaboy Noyach, the Talmidei Chachamim are called the children of the Eibishter and the builders of the world. Talmidei Chachamim, they are the ones that the world really stands upon them. Rabbi Yechanan said, Ezeu Talmid Chacham. who's considered to be a Talmid Chacham, shemachzirin lo yaveida b'tvius ayin. Now the halacha is by a Talmid Chacham that you return an aveda, a lost object, usually you have to give a siman. But a Talmid Chacham, you could return the item to him if he says that he recognizes it. Even he can't give you a siman, but he says he recognizes it, you have to give it back to him. So who falls under that category of being that Talmid Chacham? This is a person that wears his garments in the right way. He won't wear it in a way that you can see the seams or the rough edges on the other side. He's careful how he wears his garments. It's interesting, so that this is brought by Riches over here, the Mefarshim speak about this, even the Taisus Harash speaks about it, that there's a famous Gemara in Bava Metzia that defines a Talmid Chacham in other ways, not by what it says over here. It says over there a person that's careful with his Puriya, with his Achsanya, and with Meshana B'Diburi. The Gemara there gives different requirements for a Talmid Chacham, not what it says over here. And what it says over here is not even brought in Shulchan Aruch. So the teretz that Mefarshim say is, this is not really what defines a Talmid Chacham. What defines a Talmid Chacham is something else. There's a special conduct of who a Talmid Chacham is. Just wearing the garments in the right way is not what a Talmid Chacham is. But what the Gemara is saying is, even a person that does meet the requirements of being a Talmid Chacham, he's learning a lot of Torah, and he conducts himself like a Talmid Chacham is supposed to, but this basic sensitivity of the way he wears his garments he doesn't have, so then that takes away his whole status of a Talmid Chacham. If this basic sensitivity he doesn't have, so then he doesn't. We don't give him this status that he's able to recognize his lost objects like a Talmid Chacham. Another thing about a Talmid Chacham, Ezeu Talmid Chacham shememane moisai parnas ala tzibur. Who's a Talmid Chacham that could be appointed as a leader over the tzibur? Zeh sheshayel neiset dvar halacha b'chol makim. It's an individual that you ask him a halacha in any area, in any inyan, v'oimer, and he could answer you. Even asking him a subject about what's written in Masechta Kala, which is a small Masechta, it's an easy Masechta, but it's not a Masechta that people usually learn. If he could answer you in any area, even in Masechta Kala, then you could appoint him as a leader over the tzibur. V'amar Rabbi Yechanan, Ezeu Talmid Chacham shebnei iroi mitzuvin lasas le'melachtai. Who is a Talmid Chacham that the people of the city are obligated to do his work for him, to provide for him? Zeh shemaniach cheftzai. He leaves his own personal things, and he's busy, he's occupied with doing the Eibishter's needs, the Eibishter's desires. And what exactly are we referring to that you have to provide for a Talmid Chacham? To work hard to provide for him his bread, or as you see from Rashi, to provide for him the necessities. But to provide for a Talmid Chacham any luxuries, that's something that you're not obligated.
The story that you see about it, that he asked, he wanted to become a rabbi in the city or something. We had the Sinai Meikar, and he asked about a Masechta. Which Masechta was that?
And he couldn't answer. I don't remember now. It could be in Horius, maybe. Okay. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Rabbi Yechanan, Ezeu Talmid Chacham. Who is a Talmid Chacham? So it's interesting. Now Rabbi Yechanan returns, same statement that he said before, but now Rabbi Yechanan is going to say and add to this a little bit differently than before. Ezeu Talmid Chacham. Who is a Talmid Chacham? Kol sheshayel enaisa halacha b'chol makim. You'll ask him a question, a halacha in any area, v'oimra, and he'll answer you. L'may nafkimina. What's the difference? Why does this matter to know if he's a Talmid Chacham or not? L'menuya parnas al tzibur. To appoint him as a leader over the tzibur, which is what was mentioned before that Rabbi Yechon himself said. But now over here he clarifies and says as follows: If he could answer you in one mesechta ba'asrei, then you could appoint him as a leader in his place, in his city. If he's able to answer you in any area of Shas and any halacha, then Bereish Mesifta. Then he deserves to be appointed as the Rosh Hashiva for all the Talmidim. He's on a much higher level. So basically he's going back to what it said before. There's different pshatim in Mefarshim, but according to one pshat, he's clarifying what he said before. That a person can't be appointed as a leader unless he could answer you in all areas. That's only going to get to being a Reish Mesifta, to be a Rosh Hashiva. But to be a leader in his place, it's even enough if he could answer you in the Masechta that he's learning. Rab Shimon ben Lakish Amar. Rab Shimon ben Lakish, now this goes back to what it said before, the Banoim, that there's the garments of the Banoim. So before we said that the Banoim refers to Talmidei Chachamim, and the word Banoim comes from Binyan, that they are the builders of the world. Rab Shimon ben Lakish said a completely different shot. Shimon ben Lakish Amar, the word banoim is actually connected to an Aramaic word, not a Hebrew word of baina, but the Aramaic word for a merchatz is a banya, banoi is a bathhouse. That's Russian, correct, I know, but it's also in Aramaic, which is also Spanish, okay. Elu kelim ha'olayrin. This refers to the towels of the bathhouse attendants, haboim mimedina sayam, that they bring from overseas. They had these special towels that they used to give the people that came to their bathhouses, and they were very particular about this. And that's why even if it had a stain that was only on one side, they wouldn't use it anymore. That's what we're talking about. So the Gemara says an interesting thing now. Should we say that these attendants, they would use white towels? But we see from what Rabbi Yanai told his children that the towels that they used in the bathhouse were not white. Because he told his children, Bonai, my children, Al tikbiruni, do not bury me, loy bekelim levonim, not with white tachrichim, veloy bekelim shchayrim, not with black tachrichim either. Why not? Levonim, not with white tachrichim, shemel loy eske, perhaps I will not have the merit, and then ve'eye kechosen bein avelim, I'll be like a chosen, which is dressed in white, amongst those that are dressed black, if he'll be in Gehenna. And he'll be amongst those that are dressed in black, and he's going to be dressed in white, he's going to be out of place. And also, don't put me on black tachrichim, because Shema Eske, maybe I will merit. Ve'eya ka'ovel ben chasanim. And then I'll be like a mourner amongst chasanim, that I'm dressed black, and everyone else is in Gan Eden dressed white. That's the pshat that it says in some Mefarshim, that this refers to Rashi over here, says Gehenim, Gan Eden. Others say that it refers to Lasad Lovei, when you'll get up for Tchiyas HaMeisim. So he's going to get up at Tchiyas HaMeisim with his Tachrichim, so he doesn't know when he gets up at Tchiyas HaMeisim, he's going to be amongst the Tzaddikim or amongst the Rishayim. So therefore, you see from here, from this Gemara actually, that even the Rishayim are going to get up for Tchiyas HaMeisim. Even those that are going to be dressed in black. So he says, don't dress me not in white and not in black. So what tachrichim should they dress him in? Ela bekelim ha'olayrin aboim medina sayam. Dress me in the garments or in these towels, in the garments that the bathhouse attendants use, that they bring from Medina Sayam. So what color were they? So Alma, we see from this, sumkininu. It wasn't white, it wasn't black, it was another color. It was colored, it was red or another color. So how are we saying that when Rab Shimon ben Lakish's pshat was that the stain that we were talking about is the stain on these garments? The stain is only noticeable if it's white. If it's a colored garment, you don't notice the stain b'chlal as much. So for sure, it's not something that a person is makpid on. It shouldn't be a chatzitza. So it seems like we're saying that it was white, and therefore there's a chatzitza, but it wasn't white. So the Gemara answers like kashya. It's not a question. Ha beglimi and ha belavushi. Glimi, which was a upper garment, there was 2 layers, I guess, that they gave there in the bathhouse. So the external, the upper garment was glimi, that was sumki, that was red or that was colored. The undergarments that they gave in the bathhouse, that was levushi, that was white. And that's what we were talking about, that the person is makpid, the bathhouse attendant is makpid on the stains that there is. Okay, we go back to the Mishnah. Yeah, today we don't do like what Rabbi Yanai told his children. There's other Gemaras about that. That it's white. Okay, we go back to the Mishnah now, where it spoke about Shabbos versus Yom Kippur. Preparing from Shabbos to Yom Kippur, from Yom Kippur to Shabbos. So there was a machlokes in the Mishnah between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shmuel, Oimim Mekaplan. So it said in the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel says you're allowed to fold your garments and prepare your beds from Yom Kippur to Shabbos, because Shabbos is holier than Yom Kippur. But you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos to Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is like a weekday legabe Shabbos. And the same thing also when it came to the Karbanis in the Beis HaMikdash. So Rabbi Shmuel said that you can burn the fats from the leftovers of Shabbos on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is allowed to serve for Shabbos, because Yom Kippur is less holy than Shabbos. But the leftover fats from Yom Kippur cannot be burnt on Shabbos. Rabbi Akiva said, no, Yom Kippur and Shabbos are the same. Kedusha, they're the same thing. There's no nafkamina between them.
Can follow it on Shabbos? No.
If what?
Yom Kippur can follow it on Erev Shabbos?
No. The calendar doesn't allow that to happen the way it's established. But when you were Mekadosh al Pi Re'iyah, it was possible.
But Yom Kippur is not called the Shabbos of Shabbos?
The Lashon Shabbos Shabbosan is said regarding Yom Kippur as well, but the Einish of Skila that's on Shabbos, if you Machal Shabbos, does not apply to Yom Kippur. There's only an Einish of Kodesh. The Gemara will bring the Psukim now. Tana Rabbanon, so we learned in a Braisa that explains the source of their machlokes. Oilas Shabbos b'Shabbatay. So the pasuk says regarding the karbanos that are brought on Shabbos, Oilas Shabbos b'Shabbatay. This entire pasuk is extra. So what do we darshan from this pasuk? So limed, what it teaches you is al chelbe Shabbos, the fats of the carbon of Shabbos, shekrevin b'yoyim HaKippurim. When it says b'Shabbatay, since it's extra, we say that it doesn't only refer to Shabbos, but it's telling you that you could bring the fats of Shabbos on another Shabbos, which is on Yom Kippur. So Yachel Afshe Yom Kippurim b'Shabbos. I would think that it works the other way around as well, that the fats of Yom Kippur could be brought on Shabbos as well. Talmud Loimar, so over here you see in this extra pasuk that the pasuk is saying b'Shabbat Toy. The Vav b'Shabbat Toy is saying that from Yom Kippur could only be brought on Yom Kippur, not on Shabbos. So we have both a ribuy and a miyut in this pasuk. We're adding to say that from Shabbos could be brought on Yom Kippur, but we're also excluding that from Yom Kippur cannot be brought on Shabbos. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. This is Rabbi Shmuel's source. Rabbi Akiva Aimer, he darshans the pasuk in the same way, but he applies it differently. Oyla Shabbos b'Shabbat means limit al chel b'Shabbos shekrevin b'Yom. You could bring the fats from Shabbos on a Yom Tov that follows. Yom Tov is on a lower level than Shabbos, so you're allowed to finish the karbanos of Shabbos on Yom Tov. Yachel af b'Yom HaKippurim. I would think that you could be makriv the chalavim of Shabbos on Yom Kippur, like Rabbi Shmuel said, that Yom Kippur is on a lower level. Talmud Loima b'Shabbat Toy. So the Vav Shabbat Toy is teaching me that you can't bring the Shabbos fats on Yom Kippur, like Rabbi Shmuel said, because Shabbos and Yom Kippur have the same level of holiness. So they're arguing whether the drasha over here applies to Yom Tif or it applies to Yom Kippur. So the Gemara now explains the source of their machlokes, how to teach this pasuk here. If you'll analyze this concept deeper, and you'll be able to say as follows: L'divrei Rabbi Shmuel's opinion is nedarim unedavais kreivin b'yomtiv. If a person made a neder or a nedava, he's donating on his own to bring a carbon. It's not an obligation, but he made a donation. That's a carbon that could be brought on Yom Tif. You're allowed. This is a machlokes. As Rashi here brings in Masechta Bay, it's a machlokes whether on Yom Tif you makriv any karbanos that a person donates. So Rabbi Shmuel would hold that you're allowed to. So therefore, it's not necessary to say, you don't need any special pasuk to teach me that the fats of Shabbos could be brought on Yom Tif. It's obvious. You could even bring a neder and a davi. You could bring your own donations on Yom Tif. For sure, you could be makriv the leftover fats from Shabbos. So therefore, v'chi itzrich krali Yom Kippurim. So the extra pasuk of Oyla Shabbos b'Shabbat is coming to teach you that the fats from Shabbos could be brought on Yom Kippur. The Divrei Rabbi Akiva, however, according to Rabbi Akiva, nedarim unedaves ein kreivin b'Yom Tif. Your own donations of karbanis you cannot bring on Yom Tif. V'chi yitzrich kra lemishre b'Yom Tif. So therefore, this extra pasuk is coming to teach me that you bring the karbanis on Yom Tif, and not for Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur and Shabbos are equal. Omer Rab Zera said, Ki yavine beBavel. When I was learning Torah in Bavel, we had a few times Rab Zera learned in Bavel, and then he went to Eretz Yisrael. That's when Rab Zera fasted 40 Tanesim or 100 Tanesim, and he went to Eretz Yisrael to forget Talmud Bavli, and he went to learn Torah in Eretz Yisrael. So he said that when he was in Bavel, so he learned the Braisa one way, as the Gemara here will now bring, which is relevant to what we were discussing, and then he heard something else when he came to Eretz Yisrael. So Omri, I would say, Tanya, this that we learned in a Braisa, that says as follows: Yom Kippurim shechaliyas erev Shabbos. Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday. Loi hayu taikin. They would not blow shayfer or blow with chatzaitzris on erev Shabbos. We learned about this in the first Perek of Shabbos, that usually on erev Shabbos they would blow a few times in order to prepare the people for Shabbos, to stop doing malacha. They would blow different times on erev Shabbos. But when Yom Kippur fell out on erev Shabbos, they would not blow. Ubematzah Shabbos. If Yom Kippur falls out on Matzah Shabbos, loy hoyum avdilin, you don't make havdalah. You don't make havdalah on Matzah Shabbos in the davening, and on Sunday, right? If Yom Kippur fell out on Sunday, Matzah Shabbos. So, for example, if Yom Tov falls out on Matzah Shabbos, you do say havdalah. You say whatever. Mavdo ben kodesh lekodesh. But if Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, so you don't make havdalah. Divrei Hakel. So he says, when I was in Bavel, I said that this Braisa, everybody, both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, that were arguing about the status of Yom Kippur, in contrast to Shabbos, everybody agrees to what it says in this Braisa. Whether Yom Kippur is on Friday, whether Yom Kippur is Motzei Shabbos, you don't blow on Erev Shabbos, you don't make Avdallah on Motzei Shabbos. Divrei Hakel here. There was no reason to say that Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva argue about this. But then, Kisalikna also when I came to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkechite, Yehuda Berei Rab Shimon ben Pazi. I found Yehuda, the son of Rab Shimon ben Pazi. The Yosef Ka'omar, he was saying, Rabbi Akiva. This Braisa here is only going according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that Yom Kippur and Shabbos are equal. The Rabbi Shmuel, because if we're going according to Rabbi Shmuel, Kivin the Omar, since Rabbi Shmuel says, Chelvei Shabbos Krevin b'Yom Kippurim, that the fats of Shabbos could be brought on Yom Kippur. So there is a leniency. There is something in Yom Kippur that you could do that you can't do on Shabbos. Right? And it doesn't work the other way around. From the fats of Yom Kippur you can't bring on Shabbos, but the fats of Shabbos could be brought on Yom Kippur. So Litka, there is a point of blowing shofar on Yom Kippur that fell out on Erev Shabbos, ki heichi de lahavi yodi, to make the people should take notice of the fact the chel bei Shabbos krevin b'Yom Kippurim, that the fats of Shabbos could be brought on Yom Kippur. So there is, according to Rabbi Shmuel, there is a point of blowing shofar to make that distinction between Yom Kippur and Shabbos. So it's interesting, as Rashi points out, even though when they're blowing the shofar then, it's not relevant right then, because right in that year, because if when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, you can't bring the fats of Yom Kippur on Shabbos. But this would be relevant for them to remember in another year, if Yom Kippur is going to fall out on Sunday, that the fats of Shabbos will be able to be brought on the Sunday in Yom Kippur. But they're blowing the shofar to make that distinction between Shabbos and Yom Kippur according to Rabbi Shmuel. That's what this, who is it over here? Yehuda Berei Rab Shimon ben Pazi said. So Rab Zera says, and I answered him and I said, no, there's no reason to do this. Even according to Rabbi Shmuel that says that there's a difference. Kohanim reason. Kohanim are very conscientious about their Aveda. They don't have to be reminded what could be done when they remember on their own. It's not necessary to remind them. So he said, he commented about this. Do we say that Kainim was reasoning? They don't need any reminders. Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Shaloish, 3 of the blasts that they would blow. This is of what was blown in the Beis HaMikdash. That they blew, lahaftul esa'am melacha. That this is the Rashi over here brings. It's from the Gemara in Sukkah, that they blew in the Beis HaMikdash to stop doing the malacha there. And shaloish lahavdil ben kodesh l'chayil, and 3 of them was to separate between kodesh and chayil. So since this was blown in the Beis HaMikdash, the assumption is that this is to stop the Kainim from doing their malacha, and we see that Kainim are not reason, at least not legabi this. They have to have the reminder that they should stop doing the malacha. And says the Gemara, no, the pshat of it, it's not for the Kainim. This is similar to what we find that Abaye said in another place, L'shar Amad B'Yerushalayim, even though it was blown in the Beis HaMikdash, but it was for the purpose of all the Yidden that were in Yerushalayim. This is brought actually b'negei to something that was put there in the Beis HaMikdash as a reminder for Seif Zman Krishma. The concept of having a reminder for Seif Zman Krishma, hanging a sign in the shul where it says Seif Zman Krishma, you have it in the Beis HaMikdash. They had this special thing that would shine, the sun would reflect upon it, and they would know when the sun comes up, you're not Seif Zman Krishma, it was actually Tchila Zman Krishma. It reminded them when it's Netzach Hama, and they could say Kriyashma. So the Gemara there says, Abaye says, it wasn't for the Kainim. It was for the Yidden in Yerushalayim. So Hachanami l'shar Amad Yerushalayim. Here as well, they blew Taka the Shofar in the Beis HaMikdash, but it was for the Yidden in Yerushalayim. But the Kainim are Zrizn. The Kainim don't need the Shofar being blown for them. Frek the Gemara, going back again to the separation between Yom Kippur and Shabbos. Is there any point in blowing the shofar to separate between Yom Kippur and Shabbos? Velitka, frek the Gemara, but there's still another reason to blow, because there's another leniency that there is in Yom Kippur that you don't have in Shabbos. What is that? Kehechi the lady, in order that you should know, the shari b'kenivas yerek min mincha ulamayla, that Yom Kippur has a leniency. You're allowed to trim the vegetables to prepare them to eat them after Yom Kippur. Trimming these vegetables on Shabbos is not allowed, because you're not allowed to do anything on Shabbos to prepare for the weekday. Same thing on Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to do anything to prepare for the weekday. But because a person is fasting and he's totally distressed about the fact that he's hungry, so they allowed him to trim the vegetables to prepare it for Matzah Yom Kippur. So, you should blow shofar, you should blow to make that distinction between Shabbos and Yom Kippur to remind that Yom Kippur is more lenient, that you're allowed to do this. Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef answers, Lefi she'ein deichen shvus lahater. You don't allow to blow shofar, which is the Issa Midrabanan. To blow shofar on Shabbos or to blow shofar Yom Kippur is Issa Midrabanan. There's no Issa Minatayra to blow shofar, but there's an Issa Midrabanan to blow shofar. We're not going to allow you to blow shofar for what purpose? Just to point out a heter. To point out the heter that on Yom Kippur you're allowed to trim these vegetables. They did make the Gzeira to blow shofar to announce and to remind people to stop doing the malacha. Or, as Tosfos says before, the Gemara was suggesting to blow shofar to remind you that you're allowed to burn the fats. That's in order to remind you that you have to burn these fats, that it shouldn't become nicer. So that's something that's relevant, important, that you shouldn't be over on nicer. But stam, to blow the shofar, to be matter this isra, to blow the shofar for the purpose that to remind the people of a leniency, that for a heter, that they didn't allow. Rav Sheisha Berei de Ravidi Yamar, Rav Sheisha the son of Ravidi said, Shabbos kroiva, shvus kroiva hitiru. They allowed to blow the shofar for something that to remind people of a leniency for a heter that's relevant right now. Shvus rechoika lo hitira. But to remind the people of a heter that's not relevant right now, that they weren't matter. So Rashi explains what this means. What happens if Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday? And they're going to blow shofar on Yom Kippur afternoon to remind people that they're allowed to prepare the vegetables for Matzah Yom Kippur. Is that going to be allowed? The answer is, if Yom Kippur fell out on Erev Shabbos, it's not going to be allowed anyways, because as soon as Shabbos comes in, they're not going to be able to cook these vegetables anyways. They're removing these, that's what Rashi here says, yeah. It's in order to cook it on Shabbos, or to eat it, to cook it on Shabbos. And anyways, you're not allowed to cook it on Shabbos, so it's not relevant for this year round anyways. It's going to be relevant for the following year. So it's a heter which is not relevant for now. Rashi says here.
Relevant then? What year would it be relevant?
They're going to be blowing the shofar now to remind you for next year that next year on a regular Yom Kippur, that fell out in the middle of the week. To remind you that you're allowed to prepare your vegetables on Shabbos to cook them for Matzah Yom Kippur. But it's not relevant right now. It's not relevant this year when it falls out on Shabbos. So therefore that, they weren't matter. Okay, so the Gemara asks on this, but to blow shofar on Yom Kippur, to remind you of a heter that's relevant now, that they were matter. But now, we learned in the Mishnah, Yom Tov Shechali is Erev Shabbos. Yom Tov that fell out on Friday, Toikin, so they blew shofar on the Yom Tov, on Friday, to remind you to stop doing the malacha when Shabbos comes in. V'loi mavdilin, but you don't say Havdalah. When you're going from Yom Tov to Shabbos, you don't say any Havdalah. Matzah Shabbos, Yom Tov falls out on a Sunday, Mavdilin, so you make Havdalah, but V'loi Toikin. You don't blow shofar towards the end of Shabbos to remind you that Yom Tov is coming in. But why don't you blow shofar on Shabbos to remind you that Yom Tov is coming? Litka, you should blow shofar ki heiche de lady the shari b'shchit la'alter, to remind you that as soon as Yom Tov comes in, it's allowed for you to shecht, to be able to eat. If you're saying that they blew the shofar to remind the person of a heter, as long as that heter is something that's relevant right then, so then towards the end of Shabbos they should blow shofar to remind a person that as soon as Yom Tov will come, it's allowed for you to shecht. Elo, so therefore the Gemara concludes, Machvarte k'de Rav Yosef, the best answer is like Rav Yosef said before, you don't blow shofar to remind a person of a heter, you only blow shofar to remind a person to stop doing malacha or for a chumrah, for an isra that's coming, not for a heter.
But Tchiyah B'chlal is to say that this day of coming is more coming, no?
Yeah, al-Chanami. That's what Tosfos says before, correct. Okay, this is just stam interesting. This is the source, and if you look in the bottom Tosfos of this Amud, this is the source for the fact that Matzah Yom Kippur, we blow shofar. Right at the end of Yom Kippur, you blow shofar. People think you blow shofar. What's the reason? Why do you blow shofar then? Mm-hmm. So Tosfos over here says that people say that you blow the shofar. It's connected to the Yovel, that they would blow shofar on Yovel. But Tosfos says, V'chia haya Yovel b'chol shana v'shana. Is it Yovel every year? Rather, the reason you blow shofar is to remind people to prepare the Suda on Matzah Yom Kippur. It's Ke'en Yom Tov. Okay, so even though you're not blowing, To prepare the Yom Tov. That's to prepare the Suda.
It's a lot less
the
of an
reason you're blowing
inspirational
the reason you're blowing the shofar, and Al Pi Nigla, it's brought in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch also. Al Pi Nigla, the reason is to remind people to prepare that Matzi Yom Tov is Matzi Yom Kippur is a Yom Tov, and you have to prepare a Suda.
How do you get that out of the Gemara?
Because the Gemara over here is saying that you blow shofar on Shabbos to remind you that Yom Tov you could shecht, that people should remember to shecht, to make a Yom Tov Suda.
So why do we only blow in Yom Kippur and not any of the Yom Tov?
Matzah Yom Tov is not a... That's the whole chiddush of it. You fasted the whole Yom Kippur, so you code Matzah Yom Kippur to remind you that it's a Suda and that it's a Yom Tov and you have to prepare a Suda. There is the reason it says Al Pi Chassidus that you blow the koil poshet and Matzah Yom Kippur. That's the koil of the Etzem HaNeshama. That's higher than all the 100 koilas. But Al Pi Nigla, this is the reason. Huh? Steht, Matzah Yom Kippur is a Yom Tov. They've shot mechat salachtikit barecha. What's a greater Yom Tov than that? The Rebbe would take a Yom Tov, correct? Sagt the Gemara weiter, since we spoke about preparing the vegetables, Yom Kippur, trimming the vegetables, so the Gemara will conclude with this inyan. Amar Rav Zeir, Amar Rav Huna, Amar La, Amar Rav Baba, Amar Rav Huna. Yom Kippur shechali is b'Shabbos. If Yom Kippur fell out on Shabbos, so this heter that Chachamim gave, that you're allowed to prepare the vegetables for Matzah Yom Kippur. So aser b'knivas yerek. If it fell out on Shabbos, you're not allowed to do this. Amar Rav Mana, Tana, or the Bach is great, is Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned this in a Braise. Minayin liyom kippurim shechaliyas b'Shabbos. If Yom Kippur fell out on a Shabbos, she'asa b'knivas yerek, you're not allowed to prepare the vegetables. Talmud loymar Shabbosin. There's an extra pasuk that it says regarding Shabbos, Shabbosin, you should rest. Shvais, you should rest. Lamai, what is this pasuk coming to teach you? Ilay malachas, the pasuk coming to teach you not to do any of the 39 malachas. Vaksiv lesasa kamalacha. We already have the lav not to do any of the 39 malachas. Elalav knivas yerek. It's coming to add not knivas yerek. You're preparing the vegetables. You're not doing any of the malachas. You're just preparing from Shabbos to the weekday. That's not allowed. Shema Mina, so from here you see, like he said before, that it's not allowed to be done. And according to Rashi, this is an Ism in Atayra. Taisus says this pasuk is only an Asmachta, but Rashi says that this is an Ism in Atayra. He argued and he said, even if it fell out on the Shabbos, mutter b'knivas yerek. You still are allowed to prepare the vegetables for Matzah Shabbos and Matzah Yom Kippur. So Meisvei, they asked from this brayso that we just brought here, you're not allowed to prepare your vegetables. So it says in the Torah Shabbosain, Shvois, you should rest. Lamai, what is this referring to? What should you rest from? Is it referring that you should rest, not do any of the 39 malachas? It says that you shouldn't do any of the 39 malachas, so that we know is aser. Elalav b'knivas yerek, this pasuk is saying that you're not allowed to prepare the vegetables. So this is a question on what Rabbi Yechanan said that you're allowed to. Answers the Gemara, loy. That's not the pshat here. According to Rabbi Yechanan, lo'olam le'malacha. The brayso is being mechadish that there's an additional asay that you're not allowed to cut these vegetables. We're talking about vegetables that are you're cutting off from the ground. And the Braisa is saying that there's an extra pasuk to say that when you do any of the 39 malachas on Shabbos, besides the fact that you're being over on a loisasa, you're also over on an asay, the esa of Shabbosin. Tanya Kavasa de Rabbi Yechanan, we learned in another Braisa that it says like Rabbi Yechanan, Yom Kippurim shechaliyas b'Shabbos, Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, mutter b'knivas yerek. Even on Shabbos, you're allowed to prepare the vegetables for Matzah Shabbos. And it also says, Mefatzim be'agoizim, you could break open the nuts, or Mefarchasim be'rimainim, you could open up the pomegranates, Min mincha l'mayla, from mincha time onward, mipnei agmas nefesh, because a person's emotional distress that he wants to eat, so therefore they allowed him to do this. The Beir of Yehuda, mekam v'karve, they would take off the bad leaves of the cabbage. The Beirabe, Gardi Kari, they would scrape the pumpkins to prepare them. But then what happened was, Kivin the Chazad Avakam Macharfi, they saw that they began preparing even earlier than Mincha time. They would start earlier on. Amalahu, so Rabbi Yehuda said to them, Asi Igrisa Mimarava, a letter arrived from Eretz Yisrael, Mishmei de Rabbi Yechanan, in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, the Aser, that said that it's not allowed. So Rashi here says that really there was no letter that came from Eretz Yisrael, but he wanted them to accept what he said, so he told them that Rabbi Yechanan sent a letter from Eretz Yisrael saying that this is Aser. Tati said, yeah. Hadran Allah, Elu ve'elu ksharim.